G'day guys, welcome to June's monthly meal prep. So this is the video where I do multiple recipes. I'm doing 4 today and I do it in bulk and I do it in a day. This one I'm starting in the afternoon and I am doing an apple and raspberry crumble recipe. Now these recipes are all low GI. I have gestational diabetes, so I need low GI foods, which are low glycemic foods that slowly release carbohydrates into the bloodstream. So I'm using green apples. They were just cheaper, so that's what I'm using. And then the raspberries, I had some frozen raspberries, so I'll be using the bought raspberries that I got in a later recipe, but I'm going to start off with this. I washed the apples, cut them up, and then used the rest of those frozen strawberries. The recipe said to use 2 cups, but I just used what I had. Some fresh lemon juice and cinnamon. Cinnamon is such a great flavour, and here I've got about a tablespoon of lemon juice, and then I mix that all together. Now, in a recent bulk meal prep, I did apple crumble, and it had brown sugar in it, and it was absolutely delicious, but it was high GI. So this is the low GI option that I saw on the internet and I was so excited to try it. I have all the recipes linked below so that you can go and see the original creators and support them. And I was a little too optimistic with thinking that this would all fit in that lovely dish. So I've gone to this oven tray instead. Something else that I've noticed is super tricky when you're on a budget, but you're also trying to eat with specific dietary requirements is just the cost. So in the recipe, she talked about using almond flour, but I'm not. I'm using almond meal because I already had it in the pantry and I didn't want to buy another product. So I'm just going to use almond meal wherever it said almond flour. And I Googled this and it's just a different consistency. It's still almond, so I'm just going to use it. But I wanted to spend my money on buying pecans, which obviously cost more. So I've done 1 cup of rolled oats, half a cup of almond meal, half a cup of desiccated coconut, half a cup of raw chopped up pecans, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Once again, I was wondering if it was worth doing that, but I just put it in. And the oil I'm going to be using is coconut oil, so 1/4 cup of coconut oil that I have just melted in the microwave and 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. This goes into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius and cooks for about 40 minutes. We ate this for dessert as well as for snacks in the afternoon, and the suggestion was to add a dollop of yogurt on top. I was just saying to Dave the other night that I always thought it was a bit of a cop-out when people say just put yogurt on the top instead of cream, because I absolutely love cream. But at the moment I need the low GI and yogurt's fantastic and it has protein in it. So I'm actually enjoying using yogurt like I would cream. The next dish I'm making is banana and raspberry peanut butter baked oatmeal. What I soon quickly discovered with all the recipes that I'm doing today is it had some similar ingredients. It makes it a lot more cost effective when you're not having to get new stuff all the time. Like both of this had oats, and you'll see a later one. It also has the unsweetened almond milk and the chia seeds. Just by using the same items again, it really does save money because you're not buying new products. I started off with 1 bowl putting all the dry ingredients. So I put 2 cups of rolled oats, a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then I just mix that all together. Then in another bowl, I used a banana, and this banana could have been riper. It would have made it easier. But first I mashed that all up before adding in 1.5 cups of unsweetened almond milk. And you saw this in a recent grocery haul. Dave picked this one up from Aldi. Unsweetened almond milk is fantastic. It is very low in carbohydrates, so it is great for the diet that I'm on. Next, I'm putting in half a cup of peanut butter, and I always thought peanut butter wasn't that great for you, but the dietitian that I've been following recommends having peanut butter, and this just contains peanut and salt in it, so there's no other additives or preservatives in it. So I can't remember where that misinformation came from, but it's just wrong. Peanuts are actually 14 on the glycemic index, 100 being the most. So with peanuts and salt, I figured this peanut butter wouldn't be too bad. But there's a whole article if you want to read it. I'll make sure to link the Medical News Today article that I was reading all about this below for you. Next, I'm adding in about 1 tablespoon of chia seeds and mixing that all around together. Now, I then had to leave this for 5 minutes for the chia seeds to turn to like a gel. Then I added in my little punnet of washed raspberries before I added the dry ingredients in and mix that all together before pouring into the tray. And this time this dish worked really well. I just pressed it down as much as I could before putting it into a preheated oven of 190 degrees for 30 minutes, and then I checked it to make sure it was cooked. The next one I'm excited to make is easy homemade ricotta gnocchi. Now this recipe isn't specifically a low GI recipe. I had a look at a few of them and I just found they were using ingredients that I didn't have on hand, and it was just going to be expensive and difficult to find, to be fair. So I'm using this recipe, but it only had white flour. So I thought I'd just see how my blood glucose levels went after eating this and see if it was okay. And I ended up just using 3/4 of a cup of plain flour, 3/4 of a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and 250 grams of ricotta. I was aiming to get this batter like a sticky, soft dough. It wasn't meant to be like pancake-like. So I thought this was enough with just 3/4 of a cup of plain flour. Let me know in the comments, guys. Have you tried ricotta gnocchi? Do you make potato gnocchi at home? Have you ever tried beetroot gnocchi? I used to love to buy this at a restaurant pre-pandemic. I haven't been to that restaurant in so long, but I used to absolutely love their beetroot gnocchi. As you can see here, the batter is quite sticky, and I've got a 1/4 of a cup of plain flour left in that bowl, and I've just put some down on the bench, and then I'm going to put a little bit on top before I cut it into 8 slices. Then with each slice, I rolled that into like a long worm until I got the thickness that I kind of wanted for the gnocchi, and then I cut that up into little pieces. I'm just wondering here if I could have used wholemeal flour instead of the plain flour, whether that still would have worked out okay. Have you guys ever done that? Let me know in the comments below. While I was filming this and chopping up the gnocchi, Dave was looking at the time and he was thinking, this is going to take you a while. We need to eat dinner soon. So he did the tomato sauce. The recipe had an option to do brown buttered sauce or tomato sauce, and he just made up the tomato sauce. As you can see, my gnocchi isn't all exactly the same size, but it all worked out. So it's pretty foolproof, this recipe, I reckon, because I managed it and it was the first time I've made it. So, like I said, Dave was making the tomato sauce. So just in our pan over there, he was using 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 3 teaspoons of crushed garlic, half a brown onion, which he was stoked about. He had left over from another recipe, so he's happy to use that. A can of crushed tomatoes, as well as some dried herbs, salt, pepper. Then my baked oatmeal was ready, so I grabbed that out, and as you can see, look how good it is. And with this, we just eaten it straight like that, and we've also had it with yogurt on the top as well. And then I put the gnocchi into this saucepan, and it kind of said to tumble it in, and it just felt like I dumped it in. So I grabbed this spatula to just kind of mix it up so that it wasn't actually all stuck together. And then you wait until it floats up. Like, how cool is this? After all the gnocchi's been up the top for about 30 seconds, then you know it's done. Or it can be around 2.5 minutes. But I just waited until it was on the top for 30 seconds, and then I took it off. But first, I just took out a cup of the cooking water because I'm going to put that into the tomato sauce. Then I drained the gnocchi, added into the tomato sauce, added in half a cup of the water, mixed it together. Then I let it cook for a minute or two, and the recipe talked about that the olive oil and the starch in the water will thicken the sauce so it clings to the gnocchi better. And then I had a little bit of basil, so I put that on the top for garnish and some freshly grated Parmesan. This was delicious gnocchi. I will definitely be doing it again, and Dave had leftovers for lunch as well. The last one is a snack that just requires refrigeration overnight, and this is a choc Chia Yogurt Pot. So once again, I'm using the unsalted almond milk, just half a cup of that, 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. I'm just using these black ones. Then a teaspoon of maple syrup, and then 1/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla essence. And then I am just mixing that all together. Now, as I stirred it with a fork, I had to let it sit for a minute and then stir again. And I repeated that like 2 or 3 times. The goal being that it will prevent lumps. After I'd done that, I got the extra mixture that was on the sides of the glass bowl and then mixed it again before putting the lid on and refrigerating it overnight. And then it was the next day, it was probably the next afternoon, I put a layer of Greek yogurt and then I put some frozen blueberries. Frozen's cheaper at the moment. Put them in the microwave until they were soft and then put them on top. It was great. I'm going to make this again. What I'm going to do is buy some little glass jars from Kmart. I just used what we had first because I wanted to see if I liked it or not. So that's it. That is my low GI bulk meal prep video for this month. I'll see you again next month. Take care, guys. Bye.